Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of Blood, Sweat, and Faith. I am Renata Del Carmen. I am the voice of inspiration, cultivating others to reimagine beauty from the inside out. And I'd love for you to meet my amazing co host, Tiffany E.
Hello, Renata. Hello, everyone. Yep, that's me, Tiffany E. I do consider myself to be a lifelong learner, an advocate for all things right and just, and I'm hoping to spread knowledge, love, and care in this world filled with so much uncertainty. I'm excited to be here today.
Yes, I'm excited to be back for episode 2. Um, Episode 1 was like so packed, and I know we will continue to unpack it. Perhaps today,
Absolutely.
perhaps today, colorism in our race.
Wow, this is such an important topic.
It is. I want to ask you, I know like we are both very beautiful chocolate girls. And so always knowing that, I mean, we've seen or rather heard multiple perspectives on women of color, particularly dark girls. And so I recently ran into airing of show that was produced by OWN called Dark Girls. Now, this was aired in 2011, but I presume they've posted it recently on YouTube because it is prevalent to everything that we are experiencing today. So I just want to get your perspective on like that content and some of the stories that were expressed in that episode.
Yeah, it actually was very heartbreaking, hard to watch. And it's 2020 and we still have very similar things happening. I know that we can and will each share hurtful comments that we have heard from friends, classmates, co-workers regarding our complexion. It's a heavy topic and one that is at the forefront all these years later. And I love that we're going to get a chance to talk about the root of it all.
And the root, many people, including myself, so let me just speak for myself. I don't want to speak for others. In the past, I've always felt like this is an American thing. Like, I never really feel like my family discusses like this white, black, darker black, blacker than black. I never felt like that was something to be discussed. But as I got older and just took interest in learning about other cultures, I see that colorism within the race is greater than just the Black culture. Like it actually happens in every culture.
Absolutely.
In every continent. And so it's like, why are people so obsessed with the texture of your hair in comparison to others? The complexion of your skin in comparison to people within your own race? And for the life of me, I just can't wrap my mind around it simply because these are things we do not have control of unless we're trying to change it. So
exactly.
This is what God created me to be. I was born this way. I didn't choose it. It chose me. And I'm glad that it chose me because I love it. But it's just like there are people who intentionally target people and like demean them. We know what racism is, right? But to be as Black as I am, because in the eyes of a white man, we are Black the same. There's no level to Black, right? The attraction may be different for whatever reason, but at the end of the day, like we're all Black.
This is true. And, you know, thinking back on what you said about we didn't choose it, I just want to be clear, I would never change my complexion.
Right.
I feel blessed and grateful to be a brown woman, and you do as well, as you stated. What's concerning, in addition to everything else we've chatted about, is that there's no child who's born racist, sexist, colorist, or texturist. So what's going on in the home? What types of conversations are happening to where, you know, kids are coming to school and saying hurtful things, And that goes on and on and on.
And speaking with it being learned behavior, it's very interesting to me because I never felt like that was a concern that my mother expressed to me, that it should be something I thought about, or
Mm-hmm.
like colorism wasn't a conversation. I had things like being a woman in America and what that would look like being a Black woman in America, but not like what being a dark skinned girl would be like in comparison to
Right.
light skinned girl. But ironically, when I was pregnant with my daughter, her father is Hispanic and he's very fair skinned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was so many things that I started to realize as I got older about myself, that there was this expectation when people met me that I was light skinned with long curly hair because of my name. I have such a Spanish name because my father is Cuban. And so like when people meet me, it's like, but your name. And then it's like, well, where are your parents from? And then it's like, well, my mother's Ghanese, my father's Cuban, but you're like this chocolate girl, Afro texture.
Many Cubans are.
Right. But then I started to learn how ignorant people were because of
Mm-hmm.
the expectations. So now having this Hispanic daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And her, I guess, essentially looking like what people thought I should look like.
I
It's like,
see.
well, I get that your daughter's Hispanic because she looks it like, but she was so fair skinned when
Mm-hmm.
she was born that people questioned if she was mine. I would get comments like,
Wow.
"Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Is she yours?" Well,
Oh my goodness.
am I
So
not?
hurtful.
Yeah. Or, oh, she looks nothing like you, right? Or like just this concern about how the texture of her hair would come out because her mother is a Black woman, right? She's Hispanic, so her hair might potentially be good, but we don't know because her mother's Black, and you know how their hair is, right? So it's like these conversations came from Black people.
Which is why it's so infuriating to me.
Right, from Black people. There was one offensive comment. I mean, there were a few from people of the opposite race or a different race, but the most interesting one, the one that kind of made me think the longest, was when one of my former coworkers, he knew that my daughter's father was Hispanic and very fair skinned. And he was like, "Oh, she'll likely come out lighter, which will make life a little easier for her."
Oh wow. Oh my goodness. What did you say?
I said, "Well, that's an interesting perspective because she's not white and will never
Correct.
be considered white, I guess." Like,
Wow. There are
just
layers to this.
layers. And it's something that, and at that time I was shocked, right? But then now learning that this colorism within a race spans across every race, if you ask
Mm-hmm.
me. Um, and if it's not colorism, it's something else that they hold at a higher standard for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, they cannot change because they were born that way. So it's been a time.
I can only imagine, what that must have felt like for you as a mom. Keeping your cool and actually responding that way. Applause to you. That's amazing.
Keeping my cool. So many times where I've had to keep my cool or whatever that is. And I think a lot of me keeping my cool is just because I don't want to come across as the angry Black woman. Because there are a lot of things that I could and should have said probably, but
Mm-hmm.
I know how piercing my words can be and the delivery. And it's like, am I prepared in this moment to deal with what the reaction will be after I say what I say? And sometimes it just wasn't worth it for me. Sometimes.
Right. And being self-aware is such a huge part of growth outside of this conversation anyway. Like you said, the angry Black woman, or you're sassy, or
Uh,
I've heard many terms along those lines. So,
Right. And Black women who have referred to each other as angry Black women, knowing our struggle, knowing our plight, knowing the stereotypical thoughts that people have implemented into our being, our minds,
mm-hmm.
may not necessarily have ever been there unless they named it for us and said, oh, that is angry, and you're Black, angry Black, and you're a woman, angry Black woman. That's what you are. And so we claim that. Why?
And that caught on so well.
Yes.
So my experience growing up in a predominantly white private school from second grade and then into middle school and then into high school was I was the first Black person that many of my white classmates had ever seen. And so being born in New York and living there for 7 years, and it's not ask so-and-so for a crayon, it's axe. You know what I mean? Like you have certain words that don't sound, you don't pronounce them the way everyone else does, right? On top of that, and then you're being raised in a Guyanese home. So the types of food you bring for lunch, hey, I love this food, but it's foreign to your peers and your classmates. So all of that, skin color, hairstyles, food, accents, all of these things compile. And I mean, I have vivid memories of classmates sitting around and literally touching my skin and getting acquainted with who and what I was and where I was from, which I have since, with those particular relationships, I've had those classmates come back around and apologize to me, but they didn't know any better. And thankfully, I didn't receive it negatively because I am the baby. I like the attention. So I was okay with it, which I can laugh at now.
Right. And naturally, as a child, like, what else would be your reaction, especially if you are not seeking acceptance, but like finding your place amongst your peer group. Like, it's natural to be like, okay, they're into me. That means my way in, right?
But some of the things as an adult that I've heard from friends and other Black women, as well as colleagues too, who look like me or maybe a little lighter, is you're pretty for a dark skinned girl. Oh, that's the go-to. So that's the first one.
Don't you love when a Black man says that to you? Okay, sorry.
I can remember the one time that happened, and honestly, I don't recall my reaction. I was probably so stunned. I'm not sure how I reacted to that. Do you recall a reaction?
A lot of time is the biggest turnoff. So working in the fashion industry, initially, like leaving high school and working in the fashion industry, some of the music industry, and the music industry, that's a whole different conversation. Woo, Jack. But when they would say it would all, I would immediately realize that the person I'm speaking to does not like themselves.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's talk about that.
When you look at me having a Black mom, sister, daughter, or whomever, and you say to me, you are pretty for a Black girl, dark-skinned Black girl, that says to me that you don't like the woman you came from. You don't like what she creates.
Those are great points.
How could you like yourself? Like, because if you see me, I'm a Black woman, you think I'm beautiful, and you like my complexion or whatever it is that you are attracted to in that moment, why not just say, wow, you're so beautiful?
Right. Exactly.
Like, the shape of your lips, the shape of your nose, people are attracted to different things, and I'm never going to judge anyone's attraction. Be attracted to whomever you want to be attracted with, but I just don't get, like, why has this continuation? Why doesn't it end at you are beautiful?
Correct. And I don't know, and most certainly you're right, everyone is entitled to a preference. I have a huge issue with when a preference comes with then downing of the dark women who look like your mom, your aunts, and your sisters.
Right.
I don't understand that either.
Right.
And so the other comment that I've heard is the one about, oh, well, you don't have Black features.
Oh, child. What are Black features? Because let some people
That's what I want to know.
let some people tell it, right? It depending on who you're speaking to and their level, their education, knowledge of other cultures, because I stand by this always, and this may be another topic for another day because we are running out of time, but I stand by Black is a color. It is not an ethnicity, it's not a nationality, it's not a race, it's a color.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can be born in Greece and be Black. And
Correct.
what features are am I supposed to have? Or I can be born in China and be Black.
This is true. Right, exactly.
What features am I supposed to have? So, you know, if people are going to get anything in 2020, they're going to get an understanding.
Absolutely. And you know what? Within our race, there needs to be understanding, growth, and knowledge shared, as well as outside of our race.
Right.
And ethnicity.
Yeah. And I think that's part of where it's becoming complicated. The Black American has a lot of research to do in order to discover who they are, because what they've been taught all of these years is not who they are, right? And I say they because my family, again, does not come from the United States of America. So my history is a little different. I too am learning about American history because what I learned from my family is about their culture in South America, in Guyana, Cuba. I don't learn United States of America pre 1960s. And so,
You're right. You're absolutely right. And, it's painful to think about the root of how this all started with slavery and the light-skinned indoor slave and the dark-skinned field slave and the light-skinned slave who was particularly bred to be a fancy slave, which is a prostitute.
right.
Okay, there are layers to this and things that many people may not feel comfortable diving into.
Yeah.
But this is all something that was done to us, and we need to be aware of it so that we can move past it and celebrate skin, whatever shade it is.
Millennium. So, like, it's so dynamic and it's so amazing. And even in the Dark Girls, and there is an episode Light Girls, there is this conversation of like Black women, there's this back and forth between light and dark, but there are white women who want to be dark. So what is really the issue? The root, as you mentioned before, the root.
You're correct. We have to educate ourselves, our children, spread knowledge to our colleagues if they ask, and sometimes correct them when it's needed.
Correct them. These are the things that will initiate a change in perspective, I think, and hopefully lead to understanding. This was a great conversation. I feel like there is so much more to this. And we welcome you guys to like, comment, share your thoughts on these conversations, share your perspectives, because we don't want to leave anyone out. Like Tiffany E and I have this conversation, but this is totally a group conversation and it should be for a long time to come. Yeah. It's been another great episode. Tiffany E, if there was anything that you would want to say to particularly women of color, I think they need some encouragement, or what would you say?
Yeah, that's so important. Thank you for asking that question. I think It would be amazing if each Black woman decided to mentor a young girl.
Good. That's good. That is good.
The impression that you could leave on a young woman who, hopefully would look up to you and admire where you are and how you look is huge, because then they pass that down. So
Yeah.
find someone to mentor and spread love.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's
Thank you.
an honor as usual. See you next time.
Bye.
One look in the media, you see how they treating us. You see how they beating us. You see how they killing us. It's a black man, it's your son. It's a black man, that's your seed. It's a black man, he the